Okay, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us this morning for our latest Monday.com user group session. I'm just going to do a little intro to what we're going to cover today, introduce you to who we've got on the call, and just some information what we're going to do then as well. So my name is Martin MacNamara from Provident CRM. So I'm, I guess, the host for you today. Some of you may have met me or spoken with me in the past, so nice to see you again this morning. Thanks for coming. Ralph, my colleague Ralph, from Provident as well, will also be presenting later on today. He's going to be talking about some of the activities and email functions that we've got within Monday that you may not have seen before. So just showing you how you can integrate emails and activities and notes and phone calls and all that kind of record keeping into Monday. Xi from Monday is here as well. Xi, thanks for joining us. Xi is going to be talking to us about some of the new features with work forms. Just a little change to the product there and some useful functionality there is in that, which might be good to see. So that's the three of us who will be presenting to you today. Just some further details then in terms of what we're going to cover this morning. We're going to keep it relatively short, so just 30 minutes. We welcome your feedback, your questions, anything you want to ask about during it. Please feel free to speak up, whether you want to put a question in the Q&A, please do so, or equally if you've got something you want to talk to us about, please feel free to unmute and get involved. We want this to be interactive if possible. We will, of course, record this and we will send it to you or indeed to any of your colleagues who may have registered but aren't able to attend, so you can review it then afterwards as well. We will send you a little survey afterwards just to see how we're getting on with this, whether you think it's useful or not. This is, I think, our fourth Monday user group we've done so far this year, and we've actually got more and more people attending each time, so hopefully that's a good sign that people are finding this interesting, but we'd still like to know more about what you think, so please do feedback to us on that. And then obviously if there's something we haven't covered or something you want to know more about from today, then let us know, and more than happy to have a direct call with you, either myself or Ralph or Xi, or some of you may know Candy as well. She's on holiday this week, but if any of you want to talk to us directly afterwards about anything you see today or anything else you've got, then more than happy to have that call with you at any stage. Perfect. So I'm going to leave it there. I've done a little bit of homework for the moment. No, sorry, I'm not going to leave it there. I'm going to talk to you for a moment just about some of the new products that Monday have that you may be seen aware of, and just show you what that looks like. So I'm going to stop sharing this for a second, and I'm going to bring up another screen. So give me 1 second. Pick the right window. No, show me the right one. So give me a second. I'm going to have to share my whole screen. And here we go. So just to explain super quick, you'll all been aware with what we call the Monday Work OS, which is what everybody has when they sign up to Monday. And Monday have made a few changes to that now, where there are now a couple of different flavors of the product depending upon what you want to do with it, basically. So everybody gets by default the Work Management Work OS product, which has all the normal features that you'll be aware of, workspaces, boards, dashboards, all the usual things that you're using today or have seen in the past. There are some changes then today as well, in that you can now add specific products for specific use cases. So what they've done is they've put together, you may have seen in the past some of the templates that there are for different use cases within Monday, similar to that, but much, much more advanced. So for example, there is now a sales and CRM product, which brings into it a lot of the CRM functionality that you might have seen in other products, and it bundles that all into Monday. So you've now got a full CRM capability within Monday as a sort of separate product within it. So it's an add-on to the Work OS specifically for sales and CRM, and you can see there an idea of some of the different aspects that are covered within that. Ralph is going to address some of this later on when he looks at the emails and activities, but just to let you know about that. And again, happy to talk in more detail around that at any stage. So sales CRM is one. Monday Marketeer then is another one. So again, this is for marketing teams and brings some unique content, some unique templates, some unique functionality to anyone who's using Monday for marketing purposes. I think marketing is still the second most popular use case globally for Monday. So it's quite a big one for us. Monday projects then. Biggest use case for Monday still is Monday projects. So again, different flavor of Monday, slightly slightly different functionality, slightly different templates and so on already built into it. A lot of automations and activities and so on already built into it. So a really, really good way of managing projects if that is what you're using Monday for. And then just the last one, which I'll mention real quickly, which is Monday Developer, which is for development teams where they're developing products, and gives you a lot of features around that, which might be of interest to anyone who's in that area. So I'm going to leave it there for the products. Again, any questions, we'll come to those probably at the end. I'm going to stop presenting for the moment, and I'm going to hand over to Xi, I think, who's going first on the work forms.
Fantastic. Thank you, Martin, and apologies for the slight delay while I tried to find the unmute button. So yes, thank you for that sort of refresher and discussion about products there, Martin. From Monday side, very excited about those, and of course, if you'd like to know more about any of those specifically, just get in touch with us. But for now, I'm going to move on to what I would say is an addition to the forms that hopefully many of you use. We've recently released a version of that called Work Forms, and that allows us to then do a few more things within Forms itself. So before I talk about this, very quick recap of Forms. Perhaps you're already using it in your Monday instance, possibly not. But for us at Monday, they're a very, very quick way of creating a data capture form and also using the data from that to then streamline a process. So typically customers might have internal forms where you're requesting resources, or you're pitching new products or getting projects approved. That's very much a big part of how customers are using the forms right now, or possibly they could be external forms that you're sharing with people outside of the business. So that's already been in place from Monday for a while. The enhancement that we've then added is something called Work Forms, and I'm just going to take you through some changes that might be of interest to you. So the first thing about Work Forms is when you build and when you edit those forms, there's a lot more control around the aesthetics. So you can see here, I'm trying to build a form to capture RSVPs for an annual event. I can add in very easily the background, so I can change, from the stock images or from a preloaded image. We can change the color, simple things like that that just make it look a little bit better and might be more presentable if it's an externally facing form. So that's one small thing. Secondly, as with normal forms, you can continue to add parts here, but within Work Forms, it's actually a lot easier to build the questions into the form itself. Previously, you would have had to create the actual columns within your Monday board first and then publish the form. This is sort of the reverse process. So you can go and add different types of questions as you go along. And then what I think is a very interesting addition to Work Forms as well is this concept of conditional questions as well. So here, again, it's an annual event. We're trying to get RSVPs. And one of the questions I just added here as an example is, which team are you in? And just following that, I've put here that if the answer is C-suite, we may want to provide them with a hotel. So this question then will only be available to the C-suite responders. And also if they say yes to the hotel requirements, then we'll give them some options. But again, this is only applicable if this condition is met here, and the same for the one above. So what that allows clients then is quite a lot of control around different answers. You might have one form that you could use for multiple audiences, but based on what they respond back to you, the data might look different, and you might want to automate the results of that in another way as well. So just to give you an example of what that looks like, it's all dynamic. So for example, if I choose customer success, I don't receive the question about the hotel, but if I put C-suite in that, then this does appear, and same here if we do the same for the option there. So I've just added another one here for a guest. So if I'm not planning to bring a guest, no further questions. If I am, then it asks me for the name of the guest. So very simple to set up, just a little bit conditional logic in there, which again is, as with all things in Monday, is very easy to do and is very dynamic. Once you're happy with your form, you can take a look at what it would look like as well. You can see that in the mobile mode if that's needed to publish that as you would normally, just sharing this link, share on the socials as well if you need to, or generate a QR code. And you can also see the results directly in this page. So as normal, this form is linked to a board. So let's take a look at the board. And as before, if you've used forms before, you'll know that you can add automations to the board that data links to. So just going to show you here. We have all of these incoming responses for various guests. I've put them into buckets of confirmed, maybe, and not attending, and that's all automatically done from the submissions. So if someone says no, they're not attending, then we'll move that to the right group. If they're a maybe, then that moves into a separate group, and perhaps then you might want to set up an automation to remind them about the event in the future as well, which is very simple to do as well. You can see as well here, you've got details of whether they're bringing a guest or not, the name of the guest, if that's applicable. And I just added another view here. So for example, if you're using a travel agent, in this case, they can come into here, look at how many people are needed for each of the hotels, and then go on to make that arrangement with the hotel directly. So that's just one example, now that you've got more used to the idea of forms, I'm going to show you a second example, which I think might be quite interesting for screening questions as well. So very simple layout of the form. Again, I'm just going to put my details in here. And this is designed to be maybe a pre-qualifier to a company that's looking for stuff. For example, you have front of house, kitchen, delivery, and head office. Now, we know that people working in kitchen team might be different to head office, so there might be different questions there. And so, for example, if I choose kitchen, there's a very specific question, which again, I've set up based on the conditional formatting. And if I say yes, it'll ask me for a few other very specific role-related questions as well, and ask me to upload a CV. So I won't talk too much about the conditional formatting because we covered that already. But I think a really good use case for this is that firstly, you can assign the correct hiring manager based on the role, but also because some roles will have more volume than others, and some you can stipulate disqualifying factors as well. I actually added a status here so that we're disqualifying anyone who doesn't have the right requirements. So, for example, if we look at the automations, they are basically saying that if they are meeting the requirements to having the right level of experience or background checks on file for the right role, they're automatically qualified and the recruiter reaches out. If not, we move them to disqualified, and from there, maybe you can set up an automated email address as well. So if you do have this sort of requirement, it could save you a lot of time in understanding, without having to read every single application CV, just automatically putting that process through screening. And again, with all forms, we can set up a lot of reporting. So I've created just here a dashboard based on applications per team, and also we can track how many of those applications we're getting are in review, qualified, or automatically disqualified as well. So yeah, by no means this is an extensive use case and example of what you can achieve with work forms, but just wanted to give the audience a flavor of what can be done with the conditional formatting and also the automation link as well.
Thanks, Lee. That's really interesting. I like the way we can have the different questions depending upon how people answer. I think it provides a lot of what I'd say quite often of letting Monday do the work for us instead of always relying upon kind of manual intervention. Obviously, if you're dealing with a large event or a large number of applications, in that case, you're providing those automations to pre-filter stuff. So really good. So We'll just pause for a second. If anybody has any specific questions about work forms, we're more than happy to take those now. And if not, we'll move on and we'll let Ralph talk. But if anybody does have any about that, probably a good time to ask them. So we do have one question there. Where to find it? So I've lost the question.
Question from Rory. Is there a drag and drop feature as opposed to loading selected files? So it's with the forms as default, there is an upload file function or a question, but the default is adding through an attachment. I don't believe there is a drag and drop at the moment. Although, Rory, you've reminded me of something that I forgot to mention, which is that within the work form, there's also a new question type for a signature. So if there's anything needed to create, let's say, a consent form or something where it requires a sign off, then that can be added as well.
And that's a kind of authorized signature or something like that, so isn't it?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, super. Any other questions at the moment on work forms? If not, then we'll pass over to Ralph then, who's going to talk to us about some of the emails and activities that can be tracked within Monday. So over to you, Ralph.
Cheers, Martin. Thanks for that. So I'm not going to drown you in information. I'm sure you'll be delighted to know that. But what I am going to highlight is the improvements really that have been made to Monday when it comes to emails, and how things have gotten really, in my opinion, a lot slicker for us. So bear with me a second. I'll try and share my screen. So on the CRM element of Monday, as Martin highlighted, there are specific products now that are available, CRM, marketer, etc. But on the CRM end of things, communication is obviously key, and how information is relayed between your colleagues is obviously more and more. And with email, that's great. I can send an email to Martin and that's fine, and that's all relevant to what we're doing in terms of our job. But what if one of my colleagues needs to jump in and have a look at that? And that's when the emails and activities tab within Monday really comes into play. And this is an example of it here. So if we can see here that we created this account here, Binder Incorporated, and they are a big client that we want to deal with. We want to know what's happening with that. So I asked Martin earlier on, is there any update on the above customer? And that sends out. Now this is available to anybody who's going to be dealing with this account. So it could be 2, 3, 5 of us that are on this particular account and looking to grow the business. So we can see what's happened with it, we can access it, and then whoever comes into this particular deal knows that, okay, Martin did reply to me, we know what we want to have, and we know how that's going to work. So in terms of being able to have communication and transparency, that's really important. We can also see with these features whether an email has been opened or not. So as with a lot of other CRMs, there's a way of tracking the emails and being able to know what's happening with regards to, has that email even been opened yet? If it hadn't been and Martin hadn't replied, that would just say not opened. So we know, okay, that's still waiting to be found out what's going on. But importantly, it's all there and it's all extremely transparent as to what's happening with regards to various deals and sending of those emails. So on sending of those emails, how does that work? Basically, you plug in your Gmail or your Outlook account into Monday. It's a two-step process. Very, very straightforward, very, very easy to do. If you already have an email column in your account within Monday, which would be here, if I change that to and we went back into this and we want to send a new email to Martin, that's already pre-populated within that deal. So we know that the email that's going to be sent is going to be sent to Martin because that was what was already created. Martin's looking for an update on that. Well, let's have a look and see, has that come through? We did hear. Have I heard anything further? No, Martin, but I'll let you know. But the point is that transparency and communication is really growing within Monday, and being able to know what's happening within our deals is even more important. Another couple of things I just wanted to show you with this. You'll notice here that this is powered by Monday.com. For pro and enterprise users, that can be removed. All we really need to do with that is go into the settings. So once we go into the settings of that, and we on our email branding, if we want to take that out, we can. So once we go back into the particular deal, no, and we go back here. As you can see, that's all been removed now. So that is just gone. It will just send out as an email, as if it's come out from your Outlook. The email that you send will be stored within your Outlook, but it'll also be stored within Monday.com. So that's where our transparency is for anybody. As you see here, email tracking is also available, going back to the point about whether an email has been opened or not. Columns. What does that mean? Well, in regards to that, what we can do, we can auto-populate fields within your board. So we can put literally as a top line on this, what's this relating to? Who's the username for it? What location are they? The account value and the main email address. And all of those will populate into that, which creates a form of tracking. Another thing I just wanted to highlight is that we can create templates. Now, I haven't created any at the moment, but for example, if you want to have an out of office template, if you wanted to create an automation, so that if a customer hasn't replied back to you within, say, 7 days, that template is then picked up and communicated out. So it starts the system, as Martin said earlier on, letting the system do the work from you. That's one of the key features within Monday as well. So those kind of strengths and abilities are things that are really going to stand it out and make life just more open rather than creating silos. The activities tab on Monday is another feature that I think is really, really good. What we can do is we can create meeting links, call summaries, or notes. Or if we want to create even more items, we can do that as well. But a couple of the key features here are call summaries. So let's say, for example, we've had a call today at 11:25 for half an hour. We can add in the event description, and then we can start taking notes within that particular email, particular call, excuse me. What we're doing there is we're again showing that, okay, I spoke to Martin today. We had a conversation about a client. This is the updates we had with regards to that phone call. And all of a sudden, that's being able to be held within the system and people are able to do it. And if needs be, we can even create a mention specifically for Martin, so he knows what's going on with that. This is all about transparency, all about communication, all about letting the team know what's going within that. Before I let you go, there's a couple of other things I just wanted to just highlight. That we can set up automations and notifications from within the system. So it's very easy to set up an automation, which is going to, going back to what I said before, do a lot of the work for you. It's going to, if there's no responses back within 7 days, we can set that up. If we wanted to set up a particular email integration, when an email is opened, we can notify somebody with that. When an incoming email is received within an email column, we can assign that to somebody. So we know that that email has come in, Martin's looking after that deal, or I'm looking after that deal, and that can be held and kept within everybody. So as Monday's always had its big strength in terms of automations, this is helping it grow, become even more powerful. If we wanted to create an email signature, you can obviously copy your existing Outlook signature into that and paste it off there. So as far as the customer is concerned, you're just sending an Outlook, but what this is doing is creating a greater database for you so that everything is kind of held within. So that's a brief look of the Outlook and email activities within Monday. And I hope you get a chance to give it a go. Back to you, Martin.
Super, thanks, Ralph. I think it's really, really good to see a couple of questions that we had just on that. So there's one question about can we create our own branding on emails, and I think you've answered that there, and that you can.
Yes.
So you can manage that, absolutely. And then I suppose the other thing which I mentioned in relation to that as well then is that you can, of course, you don't just send the emails from within Monday, so you can send them from within your Outlook directly, and it'll come straight into it there as well. So you don't have to send the emails within Monday. You can track them. They're tracked within Monday, irrespective of that. So that's a good point.
Any questions from anyone? I did notice that somebody asked earlier on emails best practices. I'm probably the wrong person to ask because I have various different practices for various different customers that I email. But I think one of the key things with emails is being, when it comes to Monday, is using the communication tools within it. That's one of its powers. That's one of its strengths. So if you're, as Martin said, sending an email off your Outlook, but it's linked into your account, that's a really good way so everybody knows what's going on with that, and it shows a great level of transparency.
Yeah, I think it's what's run there with the emails and activities. Sorry, I'm just getting what we're getting with emails and activities there was really showing some of the additional functionality that comes from the CRM product. So it's providing an awful lot of that CRM functionality that you might be familiar with from other tools, whether it's Salesforce or HubSpot or Sugar or something else. So it's providing that transparency, as Ralph mentioned, across deals. It's linking in that communication to the user, to the contact, to the company, to the deal that you might be working on. At the same time, there is the capability to exclude certain contacts. So for example, I don't know, you've got an email that you're sending to HR and you don't want to copy that into the CRM so everybody can see that, then you can exclude messages like that from that. So that's something that you can do. Just a couple more questions that we've got. Rory, you'd asked earlier on about will the CRM work with HubSpot? Short answer to that is yes. There is an out-of-the-box integration between Monday and HubSpot, and we can further customize that depending upon what you want to do there. So the answer to that is yes, and happy to discuss that in more detail. Carlotta had a question about the specific features of the Monday Projects workspace. And are these available for pro and enterprise users or all licenses? Yeah, so the way it works with the new products that I mentioned earlier on is you can add them to a specific team if you want to. So everybody who subscribes to Monday has access to the Monday Work OS, but then we can add the other products to individual teams. So for example, the sales and CRM product, only the people in the sales team need access to that. So we can add just the licenses for that one. Equally, the marketing product, only the people in the marketing team need access to that. So we can give them access to that and not to everybody. So it means we've got a more customized way of allowing people access to different parts of the system depending upon their role. So we've got a couple of minutes left, not many actually, as usual. We always seem to run out of time on these. So again, if anyone has any other questions they'd like to bring up now, I'm more than happy to answer any of those. We did have a question about the resource planning widget. Xi, I think you were had some answers on that, did you?
I did, yeah. So this is quite a common question that we get asked at Monday a lot about resource planning. So many of you will know there's quite a few different ways to look at resource planning within Monday, whether it's through the workload function or the Gantt charts. One thing I wanted to say is that there are enhancements that are coming along the way for these, but in the meantime, there is a great tool that we actually recommended. If I can find the right screen, bear with me. Can you everyone see a Project Juliet screen on there? Brilliant. So within one of the many Monday apps that have been developed, there's a great one called Team View, which actually I had a play around with before, and it shows you a really visual directory of exactly which, what one's workload is based on what you've already preset in the board. So there will be some updates along the way from Monday directly on the workload chart and the view, and the same with Gantt. We've taken a lot of feedback from enterprise customers and pro customers, and frankly all customers, about what could be better here. So there are some items on our roadmaps for next year, but in the meantime, this has come highly recommended from a few customers and also colleagues of mine in terms of slightly easier visualization of where people are on the workload.
So that was very interesting. I haven't seen that before. So it's a team view. Is that a default? That's a new view that's available?
No, so it's not a view that Monday has created. It's actually in the apps marketplace. So if you could go to apps here in your Monday panel and just search for Team View, it's a third-party app that's been created.
Well, that looks really good. Did have a question about that. Is it available for all licenses? I presume it is once you get the app.
It is, absolutely, yeah. So just one thing to point out, this is licensed separately through the app to Monday. So there might be a different subscription. As you can see here, you go into a trial period first and play around with it for a couple of weeks to see if it's useful. And then that's transacted directly through the Monday App Store.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Just on the App Store, people may not be aware of that, but there is an ever-growing number of apps in the Monday App Store, growing all the time. Some useful little features and functions in that. You can add in things like DocuSign. You can add in things like quotes and creating documents. I know there's lots of other time tracking and resource apps within there, and ever-growing use of apps. So always worth having a look in there and seeing them. Most of them you can typically try for free, and there is in some cases then a small subscription then associated with them. It is third party, so it is separate billing. But if you're looking for something specific, it might be worth looking in that. That's on top of the Monday out of the box integrations and so on that exist. So just to be aware of that. So we're actually over time. I'm happy to stay on for another couple minutes if people have more questions on anything we've covered today, or need anything we haven't covered today, or other questions that you might have around anything. More than happy to answer any of those now. Feel free to type them in, or even just on mute and ask them. Happy to answer any of those while you've got us all here. As I mentioned, we will send the recording of this afterwards, and happy to have a conversation with anybody directly, whether it's Ralph, myself, Xi, or as I mentioned, Candy as well. We're available at any stage to do that, and you can contact us via email if that makes sense. So I'm happy to take any questions, or if not, we'll finish up from here. As I said, we will send the recording out to anybody who's registered afterwards. My email there is on the screen as well. You probably have Ralph's or Z's or Candy's if you're dealing with any of them. So please do get in contact. We will, as I mentioned, we will send out a questionnaire afterwards. Really appreciate your feedback, just so we know we're covering the right things. Is this the right format for you? Is it useful? Are there other things you'd like to see in future? Does the timing make sense? That kind of stuff. So if there's no more questions, thank you very much for attending. Thanks for your time, and talk to you soon.